You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey, isn't it, Mary? The way you got into cricket for a start is interesting. We'll touch on that a bit later on in this discussion. But as I do with all my guests, I like to go back to when they first started playing the game. And it's been fascinating hearing people's memories on the game, how they got into cricket, how they started loving it. But as I said before, your journey into cricket is very different because you didn't discover cricket or play it in your late 20s, early 30s. You were a very good footballer in Ireland and you played professionally. You played a couple of times for the Ireland side internationally and a few competitions in the football world. So growing up in Ireland, playing football, it's a big part of your life. You're passionate about it still to this day. Even though you're a cricketer now, you still have that football spirit inside you. And I'm sure you kick the football around during warm-ups as they do in the game today with all the teams,
Yes.
showing the youngsters, what the veteran can do in goal or striker, whatever you call it in football. So take us back to that journey from growing up, playing football, to then playing professionally and then making the change to cricket.
Yeah, well, I didn't. It wasn't until I was like early 20s actually that I kind of cricket even existed for me. But I started my first soccer team when I was maybe I think 10 or 11. I say soccer because we've got Gaelic football and people call football that in Ireland, so I have to differentiate between the two because it's definitely soccer. Um, and then I made my first Irish team when I was 13, so it was under 16. So I played like the whole of my teenage years really for Ireland, and yeah, was soccer mad, and Man United posters all over my wall, which was pretty cool. Not now, obviously. And then yeah, that was just what I did. Even my club level soccer was really serious. I played in a couple of UEFA Cups and stuff like that, and did a lot of traveling. But I played soccer with actually a South African born girl who we played. She was a goalkeeper. I played in centre mid for the college team, and she loved cricket. Wouldn't stop talking about it, and we were friends. So I just kind of naturally went down, watched a few games, and that's how kind of cricket started. I'd only one memory of a kid with cricket was my dad watching it on TV and during the school holidays, and I was so bored, and I was like, "What is this terrible stuff on the TV? Please get it off." So that's literally the only memory of cricket I had. So it was kind of just I got roped into playing because I was sporty, and it's not a big sport in Ireland, so they were always looking for players. And yeah, I was a fielder and just I basically subbed whenever I was available. And then I was still playing serious soccer, so if there was a clash, soccer would always come first. And then when I was I think I was 25, our wicketkeeper in the club went away. She was an archaeologist and she went on a dig, which is sounds way more fun than playing cricket, to be fair. So the captain at the time just said, "You keep this season." So I was like, "Grant." I didn't say no. I didn't really care. I was like, "At least I'm in the ball or in the game every ball." So yeah, so I kind of just went from there. And then I probably only played a handful of games because again, like soccer come first and stuff. But I know that the Ireland A coach saw me in a preseason game the following season. And then I went into Irish training that weekend, actually, I think. And then I made my debut against New Zealand not long after that, about a month later. So it all happened pretty quickly, to be fair. And it was definitely most definitely picked as a wicket keeper and nothing else at the time. But I continued to play soccer alongside, and actually like I'd miss some of Super 3 stuff and things like that, which is our kind of domestic cricket to go and play club soccer. So it was still like much more of a priority for me. Until it kind of started to get a bit more serious, and I was, starting to figure out batting and stuff like that. And we then qualified for the 2014 World Cup in Bangladesh, and we were training like 6 days a week. So that's when I eventually knocked soccer on the head and gave cricket my all for the World Cup.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you made your debut. You made your debut in 2010 against New Zealand. It was the only ODI of that series in a England town called Kibworth.
Kibworth, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Obviously, not fond memories of that debut, Mary. I don't think you would like to reminisce about your debut, but you made a duck of 4 balls, batting at number 11 as a keeper, as you said.
Yeah, at LBW, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, Ireland lost by a big margin, 159 runs. So it wasn't a great start to the career. And then a few months later, in October of that year, you went to play Sri Lanka in a T20 international in South Africa.
Yes.
And you got promoted in the order. You batted at number 9.
Oh, wow.
And you made 3 not out of 2 balls. So a bit of a red inker there. So that's
That's
pretty
pretty good, yeah. Can I just say you've skipped a very important game, which I absolutely love. In that same tournament in Kibworth, we actually played an MCC team and we also played England. And I was batting 11 again, but I got not out of 29 balls that game. And the girl I was batting with ended up she was trying to get 50. So I think there was a huge improvement from not off 4 to not
Yeah.
off 29.
Absolutely. You know, you made 0 off 4 on ODI debut, and then that game against the MCC, 0 off 29 is an improvement. You stayed in.
That was England. That was one of my career highlights.
So you then debuted, as I said, against Sri Lanka in 2010 in T20 internationals in South Africa. And Sri Lanka won by 11 runs. It was a close game at the end. What are your memories from that first ODI that you played, your first ever international match? What were you feeling? Who told you the news that you were in the team? And just tell us, reminisce.
Yeah,
What were you thinking, feeling at the time?
those details, I don't know who told me I was in the team. I can't remember. I do remember I was wearing runners though. I didn't even have spikes at the time, so that's that's an indication
That's
of how
so
fresh
good that is.
fresh to cricket I was. Yeah, and actually, I'm thinking about it now, and I had some good friends on the team, and I'm like, why did none of you pull me aside and go, let's go get some spikes? But anyway, I've forgiven them now. I know I dropped a catch off Sue Keneally's bowling. I don't know who was batting. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I have a photo of receiving my first cap, and that's why I remember that. That was about it. But remember, Rachel Priest whacked a few. Yeah, that is pretty much it. I remember the England game a bit more, which is a few days later because of my honestly, I love that note off 29. That was incredible. I don't know how I didn't get out. It must have been just pure luck. And then Catherine Brunt broke one of the girls' arms.
Ooh,
So
she's
that
a
was
very
fun.
feisty she's she is.
Yeah, she's feisty, but she's absolutely brilliant for the game of cricket for women's cricket. She's an unbelievable athlete. So but yeah, I remember that game a bit more. I got Charlotte Edwards was my first dismissal in that game, and then the umpire Louise McCarthy nicked off Lydia Greenway, caught behind, and the umpire didn't give it. Of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember more details from that game. Interestingly enough,
Obviously playing no DRS, obviously in women's cricket.
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, oh well, that's the way it goes, I suppose.
That is absolutely the way it goes.
Yeah. So you've had many people who've supported you along the way, your family, coaches, and people who you've trusted for support. And often players have mentors to turn to who you can rely on when you're struggling and feeling down, frustrated at your game, because cricket's such a cruel game at times. It's not easy. Playing any level of cricket's such a hard game to learn and play. But international cricket's such a hard business because it's a brutal sport at that level. So who have been your mentors that you've turned to over your career as a cricketer?
Yeah, I think I've had lots of different coaches along the way. Like, I mean, I guess I was such a I was a fresh, so I learned lots quickly from each coach. There was lots of information to receive. I think Claire Shillington, who I'm very good friends with, who I played my whole international career with, she was a big mentor for me. I remember quizzing me on the fielding positions and stuff like that. Like I literally had no idea of cricket, so like stuff like that. She helped me a lot, and we'd net together and stuff like that, and I'd still discuss my game with her now. She's retired a few years, but we'd still talk about it. And then in terms of when I started coming to Australia, it was because of Julia Price. She's current coach of the USA, but also does commentary and ex-international legend, basically. So she helped me a lot with my wicket keeping. Um, and I'd still, go to her for guidance on keeping and stuff. I'm in South Australia now, but in Tasmania, she'd take me for a lot of sessions and stuff like that. But I definitely still touch base with her and just talk about cricket in general and my own game and keeping specifically. Yeah. So yeah, but there's lots of people along the way.
Absolutely. You've played with some great players and against some of the world's greatest players in the women's game. You played at some of the most iconic grounds in world cricket and been to so many countries while playing cricket. So being an international cricketer, you're very lucky to tour the world and experience those places. So if you had to choose your favourite player to play with and against, your favourite ground and your favourite country to tour in that you've played cricket in, what would they be?
Well, well, definitely my favorite ground that I played in was Mohali in India. We played New Zealand in a World Cup game there. That was brilliant. Like the ground was perfect, and then the stadium was like this little old kind of, like, it's massive, but also had this kind of cute old style kind of feel to it. So I reckon India is probably my favorite, just purely because it's India in a World Cup as well. Like that's awesome. You can't fault the love of cricket in India. It's deadly, and just playing in a World Cup is obviously an awesome experience. I think it's a tough one about players of playing with. I opened the batting last week actually for Glenelg with Talia McGrath. She's not bad, but that was only a once off before she went to the Ashes. But I think I really enjoy playing with Claire, who I mentioned. Like, she's obviously been a brilliant cricketer for Ireland, but like, she's been a support to me. She's an unbelievable batter who probably, if the Big Bash was around a bit earlier, might have had a few goes overseas and that and scored a lot of runs. Um, I think like probably Charlotte Edwards. I played against her. She was my first international dismissal, and she's just a bit of a legend of the game. Great human being, and just churned out the runs. Like, she's unbelievable. So yeah, probably playing against her was pretty cool.
Yeah. Obviously, there's so many choices to choose from. It's very hard to just narrow it down to one,
Yeah.
obviously. But that's the way it is when you play cricket, because you go to so many brilliant countries, grounds, and you play against good players and from the opposition teammates as well. So it's very hard to choose just one.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, and even playing like club cricket here, like I played with Amanda Wellington and Darcy Brown. Like, there's all amazing cricketers, but I guess the I could pick any one of my Irish teammates. To be fair, when you travel as a team and you get to experience those things together, it's a different
yeah,
level.
absolutely. That bond and camaraderie among the
Exactly.
squad. It's what it's all
Yeah.
about, cricket. Mary, as we know, whenever you play sport, you have to make that tough decision. And you ask yourself, is this it? Is it time to retire? You're at the tail end of your career and you have started umpiring, and you have that to fall back on after you finish playing. And we'll talk about your journey in umpiring a bit later on in this discussion. But do you take inspiration from players who are a similar age to you, men or female, that have played cricket but have continued to get better and better as they get older? Like, for example, from England, Jimmy Anderson, who's 39 years old, and he's getting better and better with each game, and he's got that desire to improve and get better as a cricketer, and you can see that because he's played over 160 test matches, 600 wickets, one of England's prolific bowlers they ever had in test cricket. As long as you are fit, healthy, and still contributing with both the gloves and the bat, do you still feel like I can keep playing for a while yet?
Yes. Yes, I do. I'd have to say I do take inspiration because, like, look, let's be fair. There's a lot of things that we deal with from society, and you go, "Oh, you're too old to be playing. You're too like once you hit 30, it's too old." So you do have to deal with that as well. So it is good to see other players doing it. So you don't be like, "No, it's okay." It's like if you look at Mitali Raj and Julian Goswami, they're about to play in the 50 over World Cup, and they've been playing at this level for a lot longer than I have. That's for sure, and they're still taking wickets and scoring runs. So they'd be a big inspiration. It's Darren Stevens, isn't it? As the bowler in the
Yes.
UK. Yeah, like he's just taking wickets for fun. So yeah, so people like that are obviously, and Jimmy Anderson, he's such an athlete. I don't know. I'm not sure dropping him for the West Indies tour was the right decision, but that's obviously not my choice. I do think there's a side to coaches where they go and they look at older players and go, well, they've got no future. What more can we put into them? And they really focus on the younger players. And I think it's always hard to find that balance where, what do we get from an older player? What can they give back in terms of experience, and finding that balance? And I've noticed this in all sports and all squads. It's they definitely, the older players get a little bit less, not less investment, but they're less inclined to stick with them because maybe the coaches don't know how long they're going to stick around and stuff like that as well. But definitely experience is undervalued in my view. But I will definitely be going as long as my body can, and then it's down to the selectors after that.
Absolutely. The selectors.
Mm.
Every player's worst enemy. The selectors. You don't like to get to the wrong side of them because
Yeah,
they pretty much decide your fate and career at the end of the
that
day.
is true. Yeah, yeah, but it's good.
Um,
It's better having selectors, by the way, than just one head coach. So yeah,
yes, that is good. And obviously that's backfired for England, obviously, as we all know.
yeah,
Not a wise choice to have the coach be head selector as well as coach. So lessons learned from England from
yeah,
an abysmal Ashes series, which reflected in the result when they got beaten 4-0. As an Australian fan, that was glorious to see. As an England fan, not so much. um, Mary, your career isn't done yet, obviously, and you've still got more to offer for Ireland. Do you ever take a moment to just reflect and take stock of your journey in cricket thus far as an international cricketer? What are you most proud of, and do you have any regrets from your journey thus far?
um, I don't I don't necessarily reflect a huge amount. Obviously, when I do things like this and I get to talk about what I've done, it's kind of like, oh, you've done a good bit actually. That's pretty cool. But I'm definitely grateful when I get to do, have opportunities like playing in World Cups and stuff. Or like a couple of weeks ago, I did a 4-day game, and I know I'm umpiring like half the Queensland Shield team and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool to when you get those opportunities to umpire that caliber of players. I don't know. I think probably playing in three T20 World Cups is probably what I'd say is my best achievement. I think in cricket, um, umpiring, I'm not sure.
Well,
It's
it's
all
only
pretty
just
like,
begun, hasn't it?
yeah, it's only just begun. I mean, I've done fourth at the BBL, been on field for WBBL, WNCL, like all those kind of things are brilliant, and doing ICC qualifiers and stuff like that for the men. Like that's brilliant to do, but it's hard to differentiate between them all. To be honest, they're all brilliant experiences. And in terms of regrets, no, I don't think so. I don't think I regret anything really. Probably having a bit more self belief in my batting ability, but there's probably not many cricketers who don't have the same issue. Um, if they're
Yeah,
being honest with themselves. So yeah, no, I'm happy. I generally do what I want, and um, yeah, I wouldn't change much. I mean, I wouldn't change, like, if anything, like start playing earlier, but then I wouldn't have had my soccer career, which I
yeah.
had some awesome experiences there too. So
No, that's brilliant. Obviously, still a lot more chapters to be filled in the book of Mary Waldron's cricket career,
hopefully
and
so.
hopefully umpiring career as well. Um, Before we move on to our topics today, Mary, and discuss these important topics that I have today, Mary, some young cricketers will be watching this episode today, boys and girls who want to get into cricket, inspire to be like you and like their male counterparts as well. what advice would you give to any young girl, boy, who want to play cricket or sport in general and have ambitions to play at the highest level? What advice would you give to those boys and girls?
I think keep training hard. There's nothing better than hard work. In my opinion, you don't have to be the most talented of sports people, but once you work hard at anything, you generally get rewarded for it. I know a lot of people try and settle into one sport. Like if they really love cricket, and they're like, "No, I want to play cricket," but actually playing a range of sports gives you different skill sets, different friends, all the kind of different experiences. So I would say definitely keep playing different sports. And everybody has a different journey. I was listening to Usman Khawaja's little interview yesterday, just a quick snippet on Twitter, and he was saying he didn't get selected for the New South Wales under-17 team. But look at him now, scored back-to-back centuries in the Sydney Test. So, little setbacks are little setbacks, and actually, it's probably what makes you as a person later in life. And I think life's not perfect, so that's okay. Basically, would be my advice.
Absolutely. Just more importantly, have fun. Have fun and
Yes.
enjoy it. That's what it's about. Sport and cricket, it's all about having fun. We tend to forget that sometimes. Take it seriously as fans and players. But more importantly, it's just about having fun. That's what cricket's about. That's what the game's about. It's a glorious
That's it.
game.
It is.
Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed hearing Mary's journey. It was fascinating talking to Mary about her journey from her football playing days to then eventually playing international cricket for the Ireland women's team. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast, and like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Most of the podcast is now available on Anchor, Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.